Hello, this is Jack Olmsted, GMO Free News. I'm your host. I'm talking today with Melissa May. She's the founder of What Are We Fighting For? I'm in Port Townsend, Washington, and Melissa is in the great city of Flint. Flint, you've been hearing about Flint a lot, I'm sure, in the news because of a lot of things. So one of the things is the water, and another thing is probably the mayor and the governor and this person that's called a emergency manager, whatever that is. But anyway, we'll get all into that. Welcome to the show, Melissa.
Thank you for having me.
Christmas came early for you as an activist. Last week, wasn't it like the best week ever?
Honestly, it's overwhelming and exhausting, but yes, this was a great week. The blood results came back and showing that children still have high blood lead levels, meaning people are still consuming the water, which is horrifying and terrifying. And Mayor Weaver, she decided, I've had enough. This is not okay anymore. There was a 20-month-old who was sent to Detroit because his blood lead level was 50. Anything over 5 is blood poisoning, which means that he is still consuming the water, and at such a high level we have no idea how he's going to come out. And it's terrifying. That's a baby. It's terrifying. So Mayor Weaver declared a state of emergency, and the media world blew up. So yeah, for somebody that like me that's been working on this for so long, it's awesome what's been happening to see Flint on the news every single day, and not because of murders or anything else, but because of what we have been fighting for. It's awesome.
So why don't you give people a sense of the background, your background? When did you start your fight?
We started our fight. We started What Are You Fighting For in January when we received the total trihalomethanes violation. Basically, we were told that for the previous 9 months, we had been in violation of the EPA's Safe Drinking Water Act. They did not tell us. They did not tell us what danger we were in. We had already had 3 boil advisories for ecoli in our water. And the fact that they hadn't told us that there was a carcinogenic, a cancer-causing byproduct in our water because they were using too much chlorine was horrifying to me. We were already paying the highest bills we've ever paid. We paid, I think, over $1,200 just last Christmas time for our water bills, and yet we were buying bottled water. The water smelled bad, it tasted bad. We were giving it to our cats. We were doing everything we could to avoid using the water, but unfortunately still cooking with it because we thought it was, safe to cook with because boiling was okay. Come to find out, it was already spiking in 2014 with lead. And that's scary. It's horrifying. We still don't know what's going to happen with that, with all of us being exposed. But we decided that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to stand up and we're going to fight. And the community members had reached out to Erin Brockovich, and somebody had given her my contact information. And she got me in contact with Bob Bocock, who has been in water treatment for 30 years. And she said, okay, we're going to get this figured out and see what's all happening. So I worked with him for several weeks before he said, it's a mess. You guys are in danger. It is a mess there. I'm going to come out at no charge. So he flew out. We had meetings on February 13th. And then on the 14th, we had our first big march. And it was 10 degrees, snowing, blowing sideways. And even after he, being from California, marched with us in the freezing cold, he gave a 2-hour presentation in a town hall meeting to the citizens and explaining to us basically, if you can see your water, if you can smell your water, if you can taste your water, if it tastes bad, it's not safe. There's too many chemicals in it. It's being overtreated, undertreated, whatever the issue is. So I decided to take all of the information I was gathering from Bob and Erin and just research that we were doing on our own. And my husband came up with the awesome name of What Are You Fighting For? And he started building the website with links to all of our research, health, science, anything we could find, any credible information we could find on this. And so we wanted to share it with everyone. And that was in January. So we just continued to march and protest and fight. And during this time, at one of the big, huge failures of a city hall meeting held by the city to continually promise us, hey, the water's safe. Don't worry about that carcinogenic byproduct. You're fine. And especially when the notice tells you that you need to consult your physician, who is obviously not a water expert, before consuming the water, that's terrifying. We knew it wasn't safe. So several of us started working really hard to get the truth out. And during this time, I had met Leanne Walters, and she had just awful discolored water. And so she had it tested, found out that she had 104 parts per billion of lead. The EPA max is 15. So she called me crying. I'm like, this is not right. We need to get it out to the media. So we tried. We sent it out to everybody. We got no response. So we had a clever idea to hold a press conference, and we did. We had a protest and press conference to get fluoride out of the water, because that was one of the things that Bob had pointed out. There's too much fluoride, and high fluoride mixed with high chlorine is just acid tearing up your pipes. And the fact that we had such high chlorine, high chloride in our water, it just was pure acid going through the pipes and tearing it up. And that's how the lead started leaching. So we did a surprise. And when we were talking to the news about the fluoride, grabbed Leanne, put her in front of the cameras, and I was like, tell them what's happening with your lead, because we all started doing we started doing research on lead and how dangerous it is. And this is in February of this past year. And it got blacked out. Nobody wanted to talk about lead. Even in February, the University of Michigan, the campus came out and said, we have lead in some of our taps. There are some buildings that have high lead, but we'll deal with it. They have their own water department and everything. So there's that. In March, Leanne had her next test done, because they continued to test. Found out her lead was 397. Horrifying. So what we had done was we printed up 4,000 door hangers, because I know my background is PR and marketing. So I tried to use every bit of promotions and add contacts and networking and background that I had to get the word out, because I wanted to educate people so they stopped drinking their water and saw a doctor and got their water tested. This was before we found out about the loopholes that the city and state were pulling on their testing to cheat. So we had a march in March, and we went, my kids and a few friends of mine, we went door to door and put these door hangers up that warned people that high lead has been found in the water. Get their water tested, go to the doctor, and then we talked about the common physical ailments that people were having. So we let people know, and that's one of our door hangers. We let people know that if you're having these issues, on the back of the door hangers, it gives the phone numbers to the health department, to the water department, to the mayor at that time, to the governor's office, to EPA Region 5, to Sheldon Neely, our state representative, to Congressman Kildee. So we gave everyone's phone numbers out and said, you need to call. We need to fight, because we weren't getting any response back. And there are people that have been writing all the way up to the president starting in 2014. And we weren't getting any coverage or any help. They just kept saying, the water's safe. Our tests, which we now know were completely flubbed, our tests show that the water's safe. So drink up. So we continued to fight. We continued to protest. In April, we had the 1-year anniversary of the switch. And we had a huge march. And that's when I met Kurt Goyette from the ACLU of Michigan and Kate Levy, who's a filmmaker. And they interviewed me with my children and came to our house. I introduced them to Leanne, and I'm like, listen to what she's got going. They actually took an interest. And there was several other people like Brittany Greason and Laura Gottlieb, who actually came from outside of Flint and said, okay, what's going on here with the emergency management, the lack of democracy, the poisoned water, the high bills, the massive shutoffs, all these problems that's happening to us in Flint, they actually cared about. So they started writing about it. The New York Times came out in March, and luckily the timing was perfect, because they got to go to one of the citizen advisory meetings, which was a train wreck. Basically, the emergency manager told us that it was fine. And we asked him, why didn't you tell us, in the previous year that they'd failed every single TTHM test since May of 2014, and the switch was in April. And he said, well, I'm telling you now. And that was amazing. And the fact that everything they talked about was money based. We can't afford to go back to Detroit. They lied and said there was a reconnection fee, which there was not. Sue McCormick from DWSD actually came up and said, no one from Flint has contacted me about reconnecting, but we will offer you a good deal since you are in an emergency situation. This was in January. And so all of this was completely horrifying. And so when the New York Times came out, they were very interested and then shocked once they heard what all was happening. I mean, the gentleman that's in the photo said straight out, nah, I'd rather drink pop than the water. And that's what you're told not to do. My kids to this day have not had caffeinated soda, but it was the water that poisoned them. When Leanne's 4-year-old came out with lead poisoning, it still didn't break, and it should have. It should have broken to be nationwide news. And then when my kids got diagnosed, it still didn't hit. And then we found out that recently with the blood tests, they're doing more to pad the numbers yet again. They're using finger prick testing, which is completely against what the CDC recommends for long-term exposure. So we just keep having all of these cover-ups. There was a huge media cap. The city and state at the time were in complete control of the media. Nobody really let our story out unless they were coming from the outside. And then when they did, when that New York Times article came out, I got attacked like crazy. People told me I was putting a black eye on the city and that it was fine and the city was doing the best that they could. And Leanne and I were told that God hates us because we were lying about the lead when we had our state water results, because I also had lead and copper in my water. So we fought and fought through all of this, having citizens attack us, having the state attack us, the MDEQ make fun of us and call us crazy moms, you're lying, you're making it up. And all of this kept going on and on, but we didn't stop. In May, I went down with a few of us. We went down to Detroit to the International Conference on Water and Housing, and I stood up and told Flint's story. There were people that lived in Ann Arbor, a half an hour, 40 minutes away, that had no idea and were completely horrified that we were suffering so bad, that we were screaming. Yes, that's me with my kids marching, that we were screaming for help, and nobody was listening and nobody was helping. And we were just getting called crazy. Even the doctors here didn't want to talk about it. They were told by the city. They were actually sent from Howard Croft a letter saying, if people ask about the TTHMs and all the problems in the water, here's what you should say, which is the water shows, or the tests show that the city's water is safe, that's safe as it comes out of the plant, everything is fine, which is completely illegal. You as the city should not be telling physicians how to speak and what to talk about. And so when we found out that we had copper and lead in our water and we had it in our blood, our doctors said, this is a first world country. We don't know how to treat copper and lead poisoning. It doesn't happen here. However, they didn't shut us down at that. They sent us to an environmental physician who unfortunately is not covered by insurance, but gave us detox medications, the right ways to eat. And that's one of the things that came out this week. That there are certain things that you can eat to help try to mitigate the damages caused by lead poisoning. And so we tried to do everything possible. We completely changed our diet. We're paying for all these expensive over-the-counter detox medications for fear for our children and for us. And of course, our health took it down. I mean, I am a case study. This is why they used me as one of the class representatives in the class action lawsuit, as well as the National Resources Defense Council lawsuit, because I'm so damaged. I've got neurological damage. I have physical damage. I have autoimmune disorders at this point. It's completely turned our life upside down. But we continued to fight and push and document everything. That we have received praise from people like, that's my tub, from filmmakers like Kate Levy, who I respect so well. She complimented us on how we documented. We took pictures of everything. We took videos. We documented everything we could. I had people sending me photos with their addresses. I made a huge map of problems with rashes and discolored water and just trying to see how widespread this was. And yeah, so Kurt and Kate have been amazing with also documenting and everything. So we have had for the longest time we didn't have help from the local or national media. This has been a recent change, which we're thrilled with. But we have we have been fortunate to have alternative media sources, well, like you guys, that are allowing us to speak the truth and get out what's happening to us as citizens. The biggest thing is that we got the data, thankfully, through Leanne's testing and her ridiculously unheard of high lead from her service line. um, she was able to get in contact with the EPA, Miguel del Toro, who's been an awesome part of all this. And he contacted Professor Edwards from Virginia Tech and said, we have a very bad problem here. And I'm worried because everybody was lying about having corrosion control put in. And thankfully, with the ACLU and Virginia Tech, they FOIA'd through the Freedom of Information Act. They found emails that showed the lies and the cover-ups, that we did not, in fact, at all have corrosion control in place, which would have run $60 a day. Absolutely unheard of that they did this shortcut. So we've had them follow up Sid and Andrew. Everyone from Virginia Tech has been amazing. They've been covering this so well. And so when we were able to work with Kurt and Virginia Tech and the whole Coalition for Clean Water, which is Democracy Defense League and the Concerned Pastors for Social Action, Woodside Church, several different organizations, grassroots organizations, all joined together. And we started working in March to try to put an end to this. And we met with Trishelle Young, put in an injunction against the Flint River. And when we were approached by Kurt Guyette and Virginia Tech about doing the testing, you can see the test kits there. They sent us 300 test kits, which we got out. We got 300 test kits out, and then we got 277 back, which broke a record. And we were able to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that there was in fact a widespread lead problem. And this started in August. In September, we held a press conference at Alana City Hall, September 15th. And I actually had local media come up to me and say, when you first came to us, we thought, she might be a little crazy. We don't know, they're just upset. But they told me that every time they spoke to the city and the state, they had their tests to prove that we were wrong, that everything was safe, everything was fine. When in fact, the state's actual tests showed that the 90th percentile of the lead doubled from 6 parts per billion to 11 parts per billion. And let me reiterate, no level of lead is safe. Just because it's under 15 does not mean that it is safe. 0 is safe. Anything else is unacceptable. So they told me, they're like, okay, well, you proved us right. You proved that you're right. You've been right this whole time. And so finally we saw a turn with the local media, which just made me so happy. They actually put it on the front page. They said very favorable things about us instead of favorable things about the city and state. They started actually digging in to the city and state and asking why. They started doing their own FOIAs to get more information. And it was awesome. It was like a light at the end of the tunnel, sort of. That, okay, so the media finally realizes that what we've been screaming about since January is true. And that all of the work we've put in is actually coming to some kind of fruition. And so 9 days later, after our press conference, Hurley held a press conference with Dr. Mona, who's amazing. And she said, hey, we dug into this data that the health department has had in front of them the entire time. And there's a problem. Blood lead levels for the kids had doubled and even tripled in some areas. So they had the data, and the city and state, of course, tore her up. They tore up the hospital, saying that, she spliced and diced data, and it was their own data. So it was right there in front of them the entire time. So in the media, it's been a huge media battle between Brad Werfel of the MDEQ, the names he's called us, the citizens, how he's spoken to us, how he's talked about Dr. Hannah Atisha and Mark Edwards and his team, and everything that's come across, how they talked about Kurt Guyette and how he's not going to go away and he's just bugging them. And I'm so thankful that he didn't go away. because without him digging and annoying them to death, he wouldn't have had the answers that he had. And the same thing with Mona. If she would have given up when they said, no, you're crazy, you can't release this information, because they didn't want them to hold their press conference. But they did. They did. They actually spoke up, and they confirmed everything that we had been yelling and screaming for 9 months. And even before then, when the citizens were saying the water smells bad, it tastes bad, it's too expensive, there's a problem here, what's going on? The city and state lied. Every chance they got, they lied. So thankfully, the media is now completely tearing them apart. And I couldn't be happier. Rachel Maddow, her tearing apart of Governor Snyder and interviewing Mona and Mayor Weaver has been a godsend. And it has been an explosion. I don't think I've ever talked to so many people in my life about what's going on, but I welcome it. And that's what people need to know, is that without the media, the national media blowing this up, it's still going to take forever. It would still take forever for us to fight. And I'm saying this from experience because I have been at this since January, and we have done everything possible to get the word out as citizens. We've done the research. We did the testing. We've held the countless educational meetings to educate the public and tell them, this is what you need to do. Don't drink your water, and this is why. And so we've talked to so many people to get this out. But now that worldwide media is jumping in, it's not for attention. We're not doing this for personal attention or a pat on the back saying, oh, good job. None of us are doing this during the interviews. What we are doing is saying, this is what's happening to us. We need help because our governor is standing in the way of help. And it's unfortunate that the fact we have not had democracy since 2011 in this city. So for our mayor to stand up against the city administrator who still thinks the water's fine, and our chief financial officer who sits there on the stand and says, the water's fine, I drink it every day, which is horrifying because lead, neurological damage, and she's in charge of our budget. It's unbelievable. And it's such a slap in the face to citizens who are living here suffering through this toxic water that she's like, oh, it's fine, I'm drinking it. And I just want to scream because they're standing in the way of us getting help. And the only help that we can even possibly fathom at this time is a replacement of these pipes, because until the pipes are they're so corroded at this point that they're going to continue to leach lead for no one knows how long. You know, there was original estimates by Virginia Tech and there's still lead in the water. And if there's still lead in the water, that means there's still corrosion. And I mean, it took 50 years to build up the biofilm we had. And since we're going to switch water sources again in June with the Karagandhi Water Authority, which is scary, we're going to go through this all over again. And the fact is that they flushed hydrants, and the EPA had said you can't do that when there's a huge corrosion problem. So now there are people seeing discolored water who have never seen this before. And so my advice to everyone is to post it, send it to me. I'll blast it, send it to the news, just push and take videos, take photos, document everything. Which one will help us with the lawsuit? It'll help them prove their damages. It'll help everybody if you document everything. But two, the world needs to see what's happening to us, because if it can happen here when we're surrounded by 20% of the world's fresh water, it can happen anywhere. And we're finding out, I'm having people message me from across the country. They're having the same problems. Their DEQ is lying to them, their state's lying to them, their cities lying to them, their mayors, their city councils are lying to them when they're saying the water's not safe. So this is a countrywide, probably a worldwide problem, because our infrastructures have been neglected. So the more people we can reach by any interviews, by any means possible, the better, because we need to band together. We need to push the EPA to tighten the lead and copper rule to protect people, because they just agreed with a work group to lessen it, which is, especially after what's happened to us, it's horrifying. So we need to get on the EPA and say, you need to do your job, and you need to push the MDEQ or the DEQ of whatever state to do their job and keep these cities in line. Because without proper treatment and monitoring and testing, and all these states are using loopholes to lower the numbers they're getting back, which completely blows my mind, everyone's in danger. And I'm not doing this to be a fear monger or whatever. It's just the reality and the science of it. Old infrastructure, highly caustic, overtreated water. Guess what? Things are going to get torn up. And when metals get torn up, you're going to get lead, copper, aluminum, tin, chromium, and so many other metals, which are all neurotoxins and all damaging to your body, to your pets, to your appliances. It doesn't need to happen. It's 2015. They took lead out of paint in the 70s. They took it out of gasoline. It's still in our water. We need help. So we do. I mean, I know I'm kind of going on, but the reason we do want the media's help, we need the media's help. We need to do these interviews is to alert people of what has happened to us. No democracy, poison water, high rates, 2,500 shut-off notices went out for poison water. This is wrong. What's happening to us, what's happening to the citizens of Flint is wrong, but we're not the only ones. This is happening all over the place. Look what happened in Pontiac. Look what happened in Flint. And look what happened in Detroit. Look at what's happening when you take democracy away. The last thing we want is for any other state to think, hey, that's a great idea. Let's get an emergency manager to run everything. Because look how it failed here. Here's our joke from earlier. How many emergency managers does it take to poison 100,000 people? 4.5, because we still have a city administrator who is basically a mini emergency manager and reports to the governor. There's the joke. 4.5. And it takes one governor to help us, but it also takes one governor to sit on it because he's known for so long about what's going on. We went to his office twice and showed them the test results, the maps, what's going on before Virginia Tech even sent us the kits. And nothing happened. He did nothing to help us. He sent 1,500 filters to the concerned pastors, told them, you better not tell them where it's coming from. And so in hopes of getting more filters for the rest of the citizens, they had to keep their mouths shut. And people tear them up for that, but I was there. They were told not to say something because they were hoping that they'd get more filters. And now we have the filters, and they're sitting in a warehouse because people can't go get them. People don't have cars. People can't make it to the meeting times. They can't make it to City Hall during those hours because they work. It's such a mess. So we do need the media to get this out to everyone, because then maybe somebody who's an expert can jump in and help us. Maybe we can put enough pressure on the governor to say, hey, you know what? Whether we voted for you or not, I didn't, help these people. You did this. You allowed this to happen. With an emergency manager, the final sign-off had to come from the governor's office. The final approval had to be done by the governor. So you did this. So fix it, and fix it now. Don't sit on it. And, people are getting sicker by the day. And so, yeah, I mean, this past week, long story short, this past week has been an amazing, amazing flood of interviews and media contacting us from around the world. And it's great because they need to hear the effects of lead and how dangerous it actually is instead of it being brushed to the side. So now pretty sure I've told my personal medical history and my kids to as many people as possible. Invasion of privacy, maybe, but I don't want another family to go through this. If this can be prevented, which it can, I don't want to see anyone else suffer like we have. And so that's number one right there. So I'm opening up my life to the media and to whoever listens to hear how much we're struggling, how hard my kids have it right now, and all the things I'm going through. I had to fill out an Americans with Disabilities Act form for my work because I miss so much work. And it's all caused by water. And that's what I want people to hear, is that it's something that is necessary to live. It's been treated like a commodity. The choice by these emergency managers and our governor to pick profit over people, that needs to stop. It needs to stop. It's happening everywhere, and it needs to stop. So I welcome the media. I'll take the heat for being on camera. I don't care, because as long as people hear about what's happening to us, they can protect themselves and they can stand up with us. And that's what we need. So
Can we go through the media list on the Google Sheets?
Yes. Oh,
Starting, there's like over 70 articles that were written about this last week. And if you look at the previous week, I think the number was around 10.
yes.
So here on line 78 right now, on the 14th, which was the Monday, why don't you talk about this article here, the very first one that I have on the list that came from the Flint Journal, MLive. I'm going to bring it up on the screen. So this is what the week started out with, this article.
Yes, and that's it's fantastic that it came out and talked about how the lead damage is irreversible, because it is. So the fact that they remind people that it's not just eating paint chips, it's not just from work areas, it is lead poisoned water. That is something that needs to be pointed out, as Governor Snyder himself said in the Rachel, well, not in the Rachel Maddow interview, but it was referred back to, that he was saying we need to look at all the other sources. I'm sorry, it's the water. So I was happy to see that MLive was putting out that, yes, it is the lead poisoned water. And the fact that FEMA stepped in and sent bottled water, and people can go to the local agencies and get it, that's a sign that, hey, there's a problem. People shouldn't be drinking the water, so here's some bottled water. Here's bottled water. Please don't drink the water. I was thrilled with the fact that they were comparing how many children had elevated lead levels. And again, remember that your lead levels the lead starts to break down in your system after 48 hours of initial exposure. So initial exposure for us could have started in 2014. So the fact that there are still kids with elevated lead levels, you don't know how high it actually was. And that's scary, because over time, the lead will break down and go into your bones, your organs, your brain, things like that. So it's not going to test as high in your blood. And that's why I've told people, if your lead levels aren't zero, there's a problem. You need to get checked for other things. The first thing is start with a complete blood panel. A complete blood count and complete metabolic panel. That's how my doctor found out what was going on with me. So, and it talks about in Detroit at 5 zip codes, more than 700 children tested positive in 2013. And then in Grand Rapids, they talked about 1 in 10 children tested positive. And it talks about lead and how bad it is. However,
so here, okay, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Here's a second article that appeared in the Flint Journal MLive on Monday, the 14th. It was about the mayor, the new elected mayor, the first female mayor elected to the city of Flint last month before the city council. Do you want to talk about this?
Yeah. This was fantastic because she went to city council meeting, and I heard there was great resistance for her to actually call the emergency, but she did. She declared it a state of emergency, and the city council voted with her 8-0. So that means something. That was also a breath of hope that our elected officials were finally stepping up, saying, hey, yeah. And for her to make such a big declaration 30 some days into office, that's huge.
Sorry about that. I had an ad pop up. So here's the video from NBC News. So here she's declaring the state of emergency in front of the city council. How did this go over the next day? How did the county, let's put it another way. How did the county react to the mayor making this declaration the very next day? Did they welcome it with open arms?
No. Actually, early statements from the from Jamie Curtis on the Board of Commissioners, Genesee County Board of Commissioners, said he felt that there was no need, that everything was done that could be done. There was nothing else they could do. I screamed. I flipped out that he felt that there was no, of course, he doesn't live here. But yeah, he said that there was no reason for it, and that, that they were going to think about it. They were going to review it January 4th at their next meeting, which came with a huge public outcry. There were people that went to his office. Several people that I know very well went to his office and said, no, this is wrong. This is an emergency. You don't look at this when it's convenient after the holidays, because you know what? People are still going to get poisoned over the holidays. Lead isn't going to take a holiday. Lead's not going to say, oh, it's Christmas time. Let me go ahead and stop leaching. So yeah, it was, at first he was against it, and then the public outcry was insane and loud, which I'm proud of. Let me just reiterate that the people have driven this entire thing. The citizens, and that's one thing that Mayor Weaver does point out, the citizens have pushed this entire fight, and they wouldn't be where they were at if it wasn't for the citizens. So when there was a huge outcry and people called the office, and finally he decided, yes, we're going to consider it. And then, yes, we're going to go ahead and send it on. We're not going to wait till January 4th. So now it resides in Governor Snyder's hands. But for him to have any kind of resistance to begin with, when Genesee County in October declared this a public health crisis, blew my mind. So coming from a PR standpoint, perhaps think things through before you say them on TV. So, and then he said that the reporters got it wrong, but he was speaking live on television. So I don't know how you can mess that up. Again, that's my PR side screaming, saying, no, you speak to somebody, you have a prepared statement first, and think through your decision before actually telling the world that, you're going to think on it. Let me think.
So also on Monday, December the 14th, Michigan Radio came out with their first installment of their documentary.
Yes, this is strong and powerful because it covers what we've been through very well. It does. There's a lot of things that still, I don't know that anybody will be able to actually cover every step and everything that's taken apart in this, but we're going to try. We're going to try to get everybody's stories out. But Michigan Radio has done a great job of constructing a timeline of how these things occurred and what things triggered change and movement. So, of course, that's Leanne when they, at their old house here in Flint, and their lead was absolutely ridiculously high, and there was, it was an odd situation with her service line, and it's not the common, but hers being so high got the attention of the EPA and of Virginia Tech, and that's what got them interested, wondering, okay, is this in other areas? And that's the thing, is we still don't know. We still do not know if there's other really long old service lines like Leanne's feeding into people's homes. We found some. There was, through the Virginia Tech testing, there was a wonderful lady who's part of the class action lawsuit who, her service line, the lead tested at 1,059 parts per billion. So it leads us to believe and fear that this is a problem in more than just Leanne's house. And that's what we've been saying all along. I don't live near Leanne, and I have copper and lead in my water. So we knew when we talked about this, we knew that it had to be a widespread problem. So thankfully, with her high numbers, which is completely unfortunate because her whole family, they got all the rashes when they were switched to the garden hose water. They got a rare staph infection, and her son's lead poisoning. He's only 4, and he's such a sweet little boy. They all are. She's got wonderful kids. Without hers being so high to set off these alarms, we may not have where we have now. So it was very important to cover how Leanne's 13,200 parts per billion in her water triggered a huge alarm with not the MDEQ like it should have, but the EPA with Miguel del Toro and Virginia Tech. And that was a huge thing that needed to happen, because it wasn't just mildly high, it was unheard of 2.5 times toxic waste high. So I think that was an important thing to start the story, because that's really what got the lead issue out, was unfortunately her pipeline or her service line. So they did a good job humanizing everything that's happened. That's some of the rashes that they couldn't explain, and they have scars from those rashes, like many people in Flint do. They have scars from rashes caused by the water. And the thing to remember is that it's not just her family. It's people all over the city who thought they were crazy, who thought it was just them. So telling our personal stories, letting them know what happened to this one family, lets people know that they're not alone. That, hey, your hair's falling out, you've got rashes, you've got scars. Guess what? You're not the only one. We were all affected by the water, and there seems to be a lot of common illnesses and ailments from the water, in addition to lead poisoning. So yeah, so I thought that was a fantastic piece. The whole thing, the whole 3-parter was great. So yeah, so looking through all, and some of these I didn't even know even popped up. And I'm on Twitter and I'm on Facebook as much as possible. And there's articles that, and when you sent me the list, I was like, wow, I need to read that. I need to read that. So it was good to see the Legislative Black Caucus backing the request. I know I've spoken with Senator Anna Nick and Sheldon Neely, and they know we need help. And so we need as many legislators behind us as we can possibly get. Again, we just all have to push Governor Snyder to move this forward. So yeah, I'm just scrolling through this. There's just so many, which is great. This is fantastic. So let's see. Where we're at. Wow. And this is still on the 14th. And then we go to the 15th, which Rachel Maddow. Rachel Maddow coming up when Karen interviewed with her. That was so powerful. Naira Sharif from Democracy Defense League Water Task Force was standing there in my living room, and I got a text actually from Ron Fonger saying, "Hey, look at this," because we actually had NBC and CBS at our house on Tuesday night. So I didn't know it was happening because I didn't see it on Facebook because I wasn't online. And sure enough, there she was on TV, and we videoed it, took pictures, jumped up and down and cheered and thanked her so much. Funny story, earlier in the day, I had lunch with Naira and Mona, Dr. Mona Hanatisha. We were eating a quick lunch and discussing everything that was going on before the press conference, and which the mayor was going to talk about what a state of emergency actually means. And then all of a sudden our phones started blowing up, people wanting interviews. So we realized then that this was going to be a huge issue. Excuse me. Excuse me, sneeze. So we realized that it was going to be bigger than we expected. I mean, we were glad that she had done it, that she had declared it. And we figured there'd be some buzz, but not nationwide buzz, not producers from NBC New York and CBS News about the Today Show and this and that wanting to talk to us. So then we did the interviews, and there we see our amazing mayor actually talking about what we need for once. Keeping in mind that the mayor we previously had the entire time told us the water was safe. He drinks the water every day. The water's fine. He actually went on the news drinking a cup of Flint water saying it tastes great, tastes a little bit like chlorine, but it tastes great and it's safe. So to have someone who's been in office for just over a month say, we are in a state of emergency, we need help. We need help more than what the city and county can actually do on our own, was huge. And I guess whatever it did, whatever happened for the national media, for Rachel Maddow to pick it up, awesome. Just fantastic. And Karen did a fantastic job explaining the situation. And you could see the concern on Rachel's face, which was great because then she followed up with Dr. Hannah Atisha and did an interview with her. So yeah, so we were very happy. After all the cameras left, we were just jumping up and down the living room. We're like, oh my God, you know, the nation cares. The nation is listening. We have the nation listening to what's happening in our little city. And after feeling like no one's cared for so long, boom, there it is on MSNBC. And there's our mayor. And that was fantastic. That was awesome. So that seemed to be just a big, huge pickup in speed on the media list. So
How about the Washington Post article? I believe that was on Thursday or on Tuesday as well, the 15th. How big was that?
I'm like, that was great. I have Brittany Greason. She's a photojournalist, and she was working with the Washington Post, and she had talked about this story for 6 months and tried to get them to allow her to come back to tell the story through photos, to tell them how serious it was. So for them to finally say, hey, there's a problem. Wow, that was huge. My phone has blown up because people are like, did you see this? Did you see this? Did you see this article? And that little girl, that's Lila, that's the Pembertons. They've marched with us since January. They're amazing, amazing family that have suffered. They've suffered so much. And so for them to pick this up and say, this needs to be mainstream. This is a huge problem. Finally, I think it took the medical information to come out about how bad lead in water is for children, elderly, for people in general. I think it took that for people to say, hold on, this is for real poison. This isn't just a little bit of a problem. This isn't a maybe problem. This is a total, yes, the rest of your life problem. So when they picked up on it, that was also huge. And I know there was a couple people that got a hold of me and said, well, we need to interview you. The Washington Post blew this out of the water, so we want to follow up. And I said, sure. Instead of being angry saying, oh, where were you? No, great, good. Please tell our story. So yes, and that was a great article. It was very solid about the risks to children, as well as, people have to remember, I'm 37, I'm extremely sick. So it's not just children. That's me and Gladys. She's amazing. It's not just the children. That's Tony Palladino telling the mayor off, the former mayor off. The former mayor who never declared a state of emergency, who never said we even had a problem. To this day, there's nothing saying that, yep, okay, water's poison. This is bad. We need help. So that is one of the reasons he's no longer mayor.
Is this your hair?
No, this is Tony's hair. This is some of the hair he's lost, and he collects it. He kept it in a bag, and so did Gladys. And I take pictures and then I throw it away because it's sad of all the hair that I've lost. Yes, Tony. He's like, I'm a man, and look how much hair I've lost. And that's one thing is that people got to realize, it's a huge deal. It's a huge problem. It's horrifying how much your body has changed because of the toxins in the water.
Can you talk about Eric Mays? He doesn't seem to be getting too much press as the citizens these days.
Eric I first met him in January at that very first protest. He told me he was a city council person. We joked about our last names being the same. And he ran for mayor. He's marched along with us. He's not changed his course. He's flamboyant. He gets into trouble. I believe they pick on him because he is so vocal. He spoke out against the Flint River. He's spoken out against the KWA, the Carragandi Water Authority coming up. He's spoken out against crooked council people, crooked state people. he's been extremely vocal, and I think that they've targeted him. And he gets very passionate, so that sometimes also gets him into trouble and escorted from meetings, but he wants the truth to be heard. I respect him because, his job aside, he doesn't care. What's true is true, and what he knows is wrong is wrong. His mom almost died because of the water. They put off his mom's aneurysm surgery because she had a rash because of the water. They had to wait for the rash to go away. So they had to wait while she had an aneurysm. She could have died. And people don't realize that. He has been personally affected. And that's why he continues to march with us, to protest with us, and stand up. And he's learned a lot about water. And you know what? Good. The other city council people should have as well. But instead, they rode the fence, they changed their minds, they went back on what they were saying. They never stayed as steadfast as he has. So I appreciate it.
Talk about this picture.
Oh, that's one of the many, many water pickups and delivery. Since the beginning of this year, we have had so much help. We've had community organizations from outside of Flint even sending us water. There are places that you can go pick up water, and no, you don't have to show your ID. You don't have to show this. They just want to get it to the people who need it. That to me means a lot. And the fact that these places are spending all this money and donating all this water, that has gone on all year. We've had water donations from people in West Virginia who have had the huge water issues, sending us water to get to the people who need it. Unfortunately, we still need a way to get the water to the people who can't come pick it up, because it's really hard to take the jugs of water and the cases of water on the bus or walk. So we still need some kind of transportation system to get the filters and the water to the citizens. And that's another thing that we can hopefully get through FEMA or whatever kind of federal help we can get through this state of emergency. But there are a lot of people, shut-ins, the elderly, the most vulnerable, who can't get their filters and cannot get the water by themselves. So yeah, it's been fantastic. And this is when the TTHMs came out, the total trihalomethane. The water's not safe. It hasn't been. It's still not. So after 20 months, you'd think that it would be fixed by now. But because of cover-ups and media caps and blackouts, no. And a lot of it's because of the lies. You know, when the MDEQ is supposed to be in charge of this, and they lie straight out saying, relax, you have nothing to worry about. Everybody who's saying the water's unsafe, all these experts, they're liars. We're the MDEQ. Trust us. We're paid for by the state who put you in this situation, but trust us.
Let's move on to the 16th on Wednesday. Why don't you pick an article or something to highlight from Wednesday?
Oh, wow.
Off the list.
I absolutely love Anjali Weicker from the NRDC. Again, I'm working with them in a lawsuit against the city and state to basically, that lawsuit, which is the Natural Resources Defense Council and the ACLU of Michigan, Concerned Pastors for Social Action, and me as the damaged citizen, that's my new name. It's a lawsuit to enforce the lead and copper rule, to tell them you have to test right, and you need to be transparent. You need to tell people why you're testing, why you're throwing out the test results, because they threw out Leanne's high test results. They threw it out and said, oh, she's got a little cheapy inline filter, but her lead was still so high even with the filter. They should have, the point of the lead and copper rule and for the MDEQ is to find the worst case scenario and fix it and make sure it's not happening other places. Not do the opposite and cover it up. So we had filed an emergency petition, I believe back in October, for the EPA to come in and take over and make them do their job. This was a petition, and we finally heard back this week. And they said, oh, the EPA said, oh, well, the city's adding corrosion control, so let's see how that goes. Oh, we screamed. We're like, wait a second, it's been a wait and see game since the beginning. And what we see is horrifying. So she let them know. She's like, this is an embarrassment. This is a failure on the EPA's part. The EPA is supposed to be in charge and monitoring the MDEQ, which has completely failed at their job. So now we're just moving forward with a lawsuit saying, okay, if you're not going to start testing the schools like you're supposed to, if you're not going to take out the loopholes, like the smallmouth bottles that they're still passing out, and the pre-flush method, and the cap on stagnation, if you're not going to take these out, and if you're not going to be transparent about your testing, we're just going to have to sue you. We're going to have to force oversight because you're not doing your job and you're continuing to put people in danger. So when Anjali came out with that was great. She tore the EPA a new one, and it was well deserved. So that's one of my favorite ones from the 16th. And also watching Aaron Brockovich and Kurt and Dr. Mona and Karen Weaver talking about what's going on, and the fact that they talk about the citizens. That makes me happy because, again, we want to remind people that you can stand up. You can do this too. Everybody kept telling us, the water's not going to get changed back. Karen's not going to win. You're not going to get any difference. You're just going to have to suck it up and drink your poison. You can't beat the government. Guess what? Not true. You can fight the government. If something's wrong, it's wrong. Fight it. So it was an honor to hear them talk about us and what we've done as citizens. So so that oh god, yeah, then I'm looking at all these articles on the 16th. So there's MLive, there's Huffington Post, there was the Michigan Radio continuing with their documentary, The Guardian. Our segment on CBS News aired that morning, which talks about how it actually feels being a mother of lead poisoned children. Rhonda Kelso also has a lead poisoned child, and she's part of the class action lawsuit. She's one of the class representatives because her child is sick as well. So we got to speak up on how we felt. You know, activists aside, this is how we feel as mothers. We feel helpless, angry, sad, this whole wide range of emotion. And people need to know that too. It's not just, hey, we're going to continue to fight. We're upset. We're broken. We are scarred by this because we can't fix our kids. So I think that was an important piece to come out, that, you know what, we're fighters, but we're also people. And we have to look at our kids and we have to live with these damages for the rest of our lives, which then again fuels our fight. So I thought that was kind of important. The real news. And then the next day is Jim Ananek. He gives me I get a kick out of him. I really do, because he said we need more. We need more than a spokesperson. The fact that we don't have a trained emergency coordinator, we have nothing set into place. Come to find out, the emergency protocol for a man-made disaster or a natural disaster was only designed 2 months ago. This plan was only done 2 months ago. It's scary. I mean, what happens if Flint gets hit with a natural disaster? You know, so city wasn't prepared, state wasn't prepared. So for him to call for the governor to get up and do something and help us, send us somebody, send us the Red Cross, send us help, and it hasn't been done. That I got a kick out of that. And you know, he's very firm and very hard, sharp speaking, and I'm glad to hear that, because we just hear too much of the sugarcoating, and we don't like that. Also that morning I was on the Democracy Now! Interview aired with myself and Kurt Guyette, and I thought that was great. We got a great response. I've had so many people email us, hit up the website, Facebook us, asking how they can help. And that's why we do this. So that's amazing. So we were able to talk about the different aspects of this to the world. So it was an honor to be on Democracy Now! The fact that they wanted to pick up our story and actually tell it with facts, and get it out. And the fact that, yes, behind all this everything was caused by decisions by politicians. If they'd let the water plant do their job, if they'd let us stay on Detroit like we as citizens wanted to, because again, we've had no vote. We weren't allowed to vote to go to the Flint River. We had no say. And then we have no say to go to the Carigandi Water Authority either. These people that sit in a room have made these decisions for us. One being the emergency manager, who is not an elected official. He was an appointed official by the governor. So every time the state comes out and says, it's not our responsibility. We're not going to take responsibility here. Oh, yes, it is. It is your responsibility. The governor appointed this human being to be over all of the decisions in a city, one person to make the decisions for 100,000. And look how that turned out. Well, 4.5. It took 4.5 people to screw this up, I guess. So that was a great interview, and it was an honor. It was an honor to be on the show, and they're going to continue to follow up with this because they're just so horrified. They're so horrified that we have no say. The citizens have no say. We have no democracy. We have a dictator. We still have one in place. Everything has to go through the city administrator, which she goes to the governor and reports back to him. So we still have a dictator in 2015 in the United States. Unbelievable. So then there's poison. So then we get poison water. Wow. Yes. Then Detroit Public TV on the 17th. Oh, when the mayor or the governor went on and said, well, we need to look at all sources, again, trying to say it's not the water that caused the lead poisoning in the kids. Apparently 100,000 people found some lead paint and started eating it. Oh, no. It's been proven. It's the water, sir. It doesn't take a genius to be able to read the science and look at it and say, let's see, poison water, full of lead, poison kids, blood full of lead. But again, he suggests that we should look at all avenues because, we all apparently went on a lead paint diet. Congratulations to us. I don't even know who has lead paint in their homes anymore because there's such strong HUD and abatement programs. I don't know. But apparently that's what he thinks we're doing. So he thinks the citizens of Flint are chewing on our windowsills. So, yeah. It's infuriating. The things I would say to him if I had the chance. I would actually make him look at my kids in the eyes and explain to them why he's not helping. Explain that to my sons. So, and then explain it to me as somebody has to tie me down to a chair. Still an angry mother. So then, let's see. Water crisis. There's so many. Oh, yeah, that same day. So, Governor Snyder appointed Harvey Hollins. Great. Great. He's known about the problem. He was involved in these governor meetings that we went to in Lansing. The latest being August 4th. Yeah, great. So you've got a communications guy handling this that is also appointed by you and works directly for you, just like your EPA task force or your governor's task force. Okay. Maybe I'm missing something here, but the fact that he's naming people, his own people, to look into this when it was his own people, his own agency, his own emergency manager that caused this and allowed this to continue to happen. Yeah, it's no wonder people are furious. The response online has been just classic. Yeah, let's go ahead and you trust the person that caused this to go ahead and fix this, and then let's send in a PR guy to fix it. It's great. Good. So that just, again, proves to us as citizens how little our governor actually cares. I really hope he watches this because seriously. On the 17th was a busy day. The EPA task force recommendations. The recommendations is to come up with more plans. Come up with more plans. Let's plan. Let's come up with some more plans. We'll come up with some more details for the beginning of the year. What have you been doing? We already know. Thank you to FOIAs from the ACLU of Michigan.
Melissa, what line is that? So I can bring up the article.
That is 36.
36. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So when they talk about what they're going to do and what they found out, they're angry about what's happened. Great. We've been angry for a long time. Catch up with us, please. Hurry up. And they're trying to figure out what happened. We know what happened. We've read the emails. They lied, they tried to save money, and they tried to cover it up. The pipes got destroyed. We're still in this position. We're glad you finally caught up. How about some real answers? How about some real actions? But honestly, there's a lot of people like me that was concerned nothing was going to come out of this anyways. It was another just ploy to just throw on some more stuff. Here, let's do some more stuff. Let's have some more meetings. Let's do some more investigations. It's already been done. We have it in black and white. FOIAs. They're public. Read them. You can get caught up. And they went around and talked to people. They asked to talk to me. And they got the background information from the people that were in the middle of this, but they haven't talked to the citizens. That's a problem. Those are the people that are truly affected by this. Those are the people that you need to answer to. Those are the people you should have talked to. So again, I got the invitation to talk to them and no scheduling was done. They haven't responded to my attorneys. So yeah, whatever. I would have liked to let them know that as a citizen, this is not the way to go. This is not what you do. So far, nobody's done anything besides Karen Weaver to restore trust in our city or state government. And I don't know if that's even going to be possible at this point. And so when we read articles like this, we just shake our heads and we're like, it's the same thing as the meetings we went through in January when they tried to tell us all about TTHMs from their research from 1985. We all have Google for the most part. We already know. We've already read up on this. So far, you're not telling us anything new and you're not offering solutions. That is what the people of Flint need right now. So there's some anger for you.
Can you talk about this letter?
Let's see. Which one's going to anger me the least?
Do you see the screen?
Yes.
And the letter from the governor?
Yes, that's what I'm looking at right now.
The task force?
Yes. And it talks about at the state level, there has been a confluence of efforts between Are you serious? Now, perhaps he has a different definition of efforts than the rest of us. They talk about continual improvement. They said you make solid recommendation to establish a person. Pick a water expert, not a PR guy. Pick a water expert. Pick somebody who knows what's going on inside and out. But again, talking about a dashboard. Okay, so when we talk about Flint and the fact that not everybody has internet, that's cool. So we can look at a dashboard and say nothing is happening, nothing is being done. Fantastic. So for people who don't have internet access, they're just out on their own, which are the people we're trying to reach because they don't know the water's not safe. So, to me, it's fluff. It's all fluff. There's no real, we need new pipes, sir. We need new infrastructure. We need medical help. We need educational assistance. We need help. People need, they talked about it. Mona talked about it with PTSD. We're afraid of our water. We're afraid of our taps. Our lives are turned upside down. We don't need a dashboard to know it's messed up. We know that it is. We don't need a PR guy to tell us it's fine. We've already had that. We dealt with Brad Werfel. We've heard enough from a PR standpoint. And I've heard that he's angry and wants to make change. Good for you. We need new pipes. We need trucks of water to come to these people's houses who need water. We need therapy for these kids and for these people who are traumatized. We need you to get a handle on our bills and the shutoffs for poison water. And the fact that we're receiving bills for water that's been prepaid by the State and Mott Foundation. The water's been paid for. Why are we receiving $300 a month bills still? Those are actual solutions to the problems. This is just more bureaucratic, blah, blah, blah. That was my professional legal translation of this.
PR speak.
Yes, that was my PR answer. Blah, blah, blah. More bureaucratic, blah, blah, blah. Again, proving to me and other people that he's not taking this seriously and has little to no intention of actually making a difference in our crisis. So knock it off, you know, knock it off. There was another great video came up on Michigan radio. It's a different family and how they have to adjust to life with poison water. It's a great video. The family did a fantastic job. But again, this is 2015. Why do we have to make these changes? They have to change what they eat. They've had to change how they cook and how they live, along with the rest of the city of Flint, because of poison water. 2015. This is not supposed to happen. And it's sad. It breaks my heart for them. Every single family that has had to change their life because bureaucrats who sat down at a table and said, this is a great way to save money. Yeah. I still can't get past that. And I am so angry. So angry. And this family did a fantastic job. So I applaud them. Because again, going back to what Kate Levy said, the citizens have done a great job of being citizen reporters and documentarians on their own. People taking pictures and video and being honest about what's happened to us and what our lives are like. And it breaks my heart. It does. And I appreciate Michigan Radio for putting this out, for having them do this.
Their eldest daughter wants to leave.
Yeah.
But they can't. Just like you can't. Just like a lot of families can't leave Flint.
Everybody asked that question. Why, all the reporters, why don't you just leave? First of all, economically, 6 years into a mortgage, my kids go to good schools. We can't, I wouldn't be able to sell my house if I wanted to. You can't sell your house with a known copper and lead problem. And I don't have the money to replace my service line, my indoor plumbing, and my water heater yet again. So I cannot sell my house. Nor would I want to. I don't want to sell a poison water house to somebody. I don't want to give them what we've been suffering through. And on the other part of it, the angry part of me says, why should I have to? I didn't do this. I didn't choose to poison 100,000 people. Why do I have to move because they screwed up and won't fix up their mess? So, yeah, I mean, again, if I could, I know that we would. I know that we would find a safer place to live. And I'm not even talking about the violence. I'm talking about the water. That's what's messed up. You know, everybody talks about Flint being a violent city. It's not even that anymore. It's a poisoned city. And we're continuing to be poisoned. It's not stopped. And on the other hand, I love it here. My bands, I love the bands I work with. I love the machine shop. I love my job. You know, this is our life. This isn't just a place where we reside. Our whole life is here in Flint. So again, why should we have to change everything that we know and love? Because bureaucrats won't get off their rear ends and fix what they screwed up. We didn't do it. They did it. So yeah. So their story breaks my heart, and it's so common now. And that's what's bad. People who get together in Flint, they don't talk about what's happening now and, you know, what's fun and what things to go do and what they're going to do on vacation. Everybody talks about the water. Everybody's talking about their bones hurting. They're talking about their kids fumbling. They're talking about the brain fog, the cramps, the seizures, the medications we're on. That's a big, huge thing. We all talk about our medications. And we talk about what's not being done for us. And that's, I don't know how to put words to it. I can't. And as much as I talk, you know that I talk, it's surreal. It's not even a life. We feel like we're in prison and we're being poisoned and we're paying the highest rates for our poison. They're sending shut-off notices for people who can't afford to pay for poison. They won't stop kicking us. So for them to tell their personal story and to let people in on their life, congratulations to them. They are brave and I applaud them and I respect them so much for that. So, the reporter's notebook. State officials still in denial or misinformed.
What's the number?
It's right above that one. It's 30. Oh no, 30. Yeah, 34.
34. Got it. Okay.
So that's been another issue, is that somehow our state officials still don't know what's going on. Again, Brad Werfel did a job as press secretary of lying to us and covering it up, lying to everyone. You know, it's amazing just how many lies. And we still have people that ask, what's going on in Flint? What do you mean poisoned water? So for the fact that there are still so many people that don't know the story, or that argue. Like, it shows, if you scroll down, it talks about the governor's press secretary, Dave Murray, calling Michigan radio and saying that these things aren't accurate. Kurt Goyette was awesome with turning their narrative upside down. The fact that they kept saying that Detroit kicked us off, that Flint had no other options but to take water from the river. That's not true. The city of Flint cut ties. Detroit gave us an extra year and made multiple offers. Lower the rates, no rate increases for 30 some years. Just amazing offers that us as citizens would say, yes, let us keep our clean water. I would like to go back to when I paid $80 a month for water instead of $300 for poison. You know, I mean, just, it blows my mind that they're still towing that line, that we had no other options. And the fact that, we did what we could. We didn't have any choice.
So the Detroit Water Authority said that they would reduce your water rates?
Yes. I think it was April 22nd of 2014, Sue McCormick sent another offer saying that we'll lower the rate, we'll lock you in, we won't raise your rates to keep our revenue. Because another big picture issue is that when Detroit lost our $15 million a year revenue or so, that hurt them. That's a huge chunk. We were their biggest customer. So you know who's paying for that now? The citizens of Detroit. They are paying enormous bills. And so now there's massive shutoffs because they can't afford it. So what ended up happening by this decision being made by our governor is that there are people moving out of Detroit who can't afford it. There are people trying to survive without water and getting sick and dying, by the way, because they do not have access to water. And then the people in Flint are also getting sick and possibly dying because we have poison water. So this one decision took out two major cities, because they wanted to save money. And also, a little side note, there still is no proof that any money was saved. Bob Bocock asked in February to see the costs of treating and supplying the water in Flint. Still hasn't received it because they won't give it to him. I don't think they know. And all I know is after the 400 some odd main breaks and how it continues to happen, we have broken valves near my house and they just threw asphalt over it, which is great. So now the road's caving in because the water's seeping up through the asphalt. So, and the fact that our infrastructure is valued at over $1 billion to repair, I'm pretty sure the $2 million they thought they were going to save, I think that's gone, obviously. And the fact that the citizens here went from paying $80 a month and fully using our water to $300 a month and still having to buy bottled water on top of that and filters. I mean, so
what do you use your water for?
Our water is used for our laundry, which ends up making it stink, and our dishwasher, which I chase my kids out of the kitchen when there's steam. Yeah, that's about it.
Flush the toilet.
The quick showers, flush the toilet, which whatever they're doing to the water now with adding those additional phosphates, which, oh my God, that's all we need is more chemicals in the water. I think they're adding more chlorine on top of it because phosphates can grow bacteria. They can feed bacteria. Because there's several people that have called me and bottled their water because their water burns their eyes again. The chlorine smell is so high. And I flushed the upstairs toilet yesterday, and the whole bathroom filled with chlorine smell. It just burned my eyes. So once again, highly caustic water continuing to tear up our pipes because of what they're throwing in there now. And the thing is our mayor had asked them, what are the side effects of adding these additional phosphates? Have you even researched it? Nope. No answer. So again, let's wing it. Let's wait and see. That seems to be the theme here. Let's wait and see how bad it'll be. Great. So now we got to deal with high chlorine again. And
isn't the water agency under the mayor's control?
sort of. She still has to answer through Natasha Henderson, and that's our city administrator. So when she's asking questions, she's running into interference. She's supposed to be working with the mayor, but there seems to be issues with that. So the mayor wants to know some answers, and they're not giving it. I mean, again, there was a technical advisory board meeting that was supposed to be scheduled for December 9th that Mike Glasgow, the utilities administrator, canceled. And we had people coming in from the EPA. They had travel arrangements to come in, and he just canceled it. And he said, well, we put in the phosphates, so we'll see how it is in the beginning of next year. So no, I mean, they're pretty much just running on their own. And actually, Natasha Henderson kind of acts like she is the new director of public works since ours stepped down. So again, our mayor's trying. She's trying, but she's hitting resistance around every corner. And still no answers on the additional phosphates. So I guess that's up to the citizens to do the research, because they're not going to tell us. So yeah, so we've been feeding as much information to the mayor as we can pull up. You know, we're doing everything we can to help her and support her, because she's the only one, you know, aside from Eric Mays, of course, who is standing up in that city hall, who's standing up for us. So I like my tangents. I go lengthy. Sorry.
It's okay. Let's go back to the spreadsheet. We went through the reporter's notebook, Michigan Radio.
Yes. Yes. So let's see. Then there's talking about the governor's task force, Reddit. Then they did a great interview. Reddit did, when they talked about the Flint water study, which is our great friends in Virginia Tech, which is Sid and Anyarong, and their website has been so helpful. I tell people to go check it out when they want to see the facts, because they do. They post everything. And for them to take so much time, again, they're volunteering their time to cover what's going on here, and not just interviews, but they follow all the media. They post everything to keep people updated. I think it's amazing. It's been a huge thing to have such amazing people behind us who are giving their time. You know, and that's the thing, is like, that's the, when will we be able to say the Flint water is safe to drink again and lift the water emergency? And we don't know. And again, when we have scientists saying that the MDEQ's level of safe would not be their level of safe, come on. You listen to the experts, listen to the civil and environmental engineers who will tell you it's not safe. You know, and I think that's all that the state's trying to do, is push us through this emergency, push us through this crisis, so they don't have to declare an emergency, and they can go back to business as usual, poisoning us, or saying it's safe. And I'm pretty certain that the people of Flint are not going to believe a word that the MDEQ says. So, Detroit Free Press. When did the state know that the kids in Flint were lead poisoned? I do know for a fact that in April 2nd, when Leanne got the blood test results for her son, that she contacted the state, she contacted the city, went to City Hall, and made it very clear. I did the same in April when I found out the results of my son's blood work. So we made it very clear. And the worst part is they continue to say, we didn't know. Well, guess what? The Department of Health and Human Services and the County Health Department had the information in front of them. Nobody bothered to look at it until Dr. Hannah Atisha. And that's pathetic. That's pathetic. So again, they're questioning when the state knew about the lead. 2014 is when the lead started to spike. It's when the 90th percentile doubled. And then earlier this year, when U of M came out and said, we've got lead in our buildings. And when the first round of testing was completed, they knew. Oh, and then let's go ahead and fast forward to August and September, when we started releasing the results of the Virginia Tech tests. And then in September, when Hurley came out. It's December. It is December right now. They had science in front of them in September. So when did they first know? They had to have known with Leanne, because there was a huge uproar in City Hall. They tried to buy her off. They tried to make her sign a contract to where they replaced her service line for free if she didn't sue, and her kids couldn't sue, and their kids couldn't sue for the lead poisoning and damage done to their bodies. So again, there's no way that they didn't know, but that's okay. For some reason, ignorance seems to be an okay defense for them. Yeah, so that's one thing that I'm enjoying that's getting pointed out that they knew. The toxic soup article with the Guardian with the Dr. Hannah Atisha was fantastic. She's again saying, and that's on 28. She's again telling the world that what is happening is it's horrifying, that these kids are going to live with this for the rest of their lives, and that it's irreparable brain damage. It's not okay. That she talked about the trends and how high it is, and she says we are assuming that the entire population in the city of Flint has been or cooked with the water. In fact, cooking the water the lead levels. So yes, everyone, and she's not even just children, and she's working on this too. It's not just the kids. We're trying to find out how many miscarriages happened, how many stillbirths, how many pregnant moms are having problems, how many elderly people are having more problems than normal, how many people my age are having ridiculous problems, neurological damage, physical damage, autoimmune disorders. And we're trying to compile that information. I would love, love, love an epidemiologist to come in here. So there's no question it's the water. And there, then he can tell everybody that we're not all eating paint chips. So, so she did fantastic, talking about that, her tests and the results, and she's like, research underestimates the risks. And that's the thing, is that the children were tested ages 1 and 2, but they weren't tested when the babies were in the womb. So how many pregnant women had issues? How many pregnancies were lost because of this? So that's one thing that they're working on now. And then, of course, it refers back to our lawsuits and everything. The serial Flint experience. Wow, I'm just looking at all of these articles, and there's things that I haven't even watched yet. And then Hurley put out a lead and recipe resource guide. We talked about this, about the things that you can eat. I found something similar actually in Australia on how to try to mitigate the damages of lead, try to get it out of your system, try to boost the kids' immune systems, and try to work against the anemia, which is a side effect of lead poisoning. So this handout is very, very helpful. It needs to be sent to every single household in Flint. That's very important. Very important. Every single household, no matter what, if they're renters, homeowners, every single person who lives in the city needs to have this guide sent to them. So we tried on Tuesday, we were trying to come up with ideas on how to get the information to everybody and what we could do. So I'd already made a video about the testing to get done with your doctor. So hopefully we can make a video with recipes and cooking and the things that, like, my family has done. I mean, my kids have never eaten so much kale, broccoli, things to help with your bones and your blood and detoxing. It's important because not everybody can afford the detox medications. They're quite expensive that my family's having to be on. So it's important that maybe they make little changes in how they cook. And I say little changes, but I went from microwave pizzas or microwave foods to spending 2 hours a night cooking. But it's worth it if I can help my kids, even the littlest. So I'm glad that they put that out, and that was on the 18th. Wow, we've got more MLive. They talk about it, and then of course, my favorite thing in the world was Dr. Hannah Atisha on the Rachel Maddow show. She did a great job. I mean, she had minutes to push how important it was and how it's irreversible, and everyone is affected and everyone needs help. And that's why we need this state of emergency. But before Rachel Maddow interviewed Dr. Hannah Atisha, she tore the governor a new one. And this is probably one of the most favorite things that's happened. This was my Christmas present. This was a Christmas present to Melissa, to hear someone actually tear apart our governor and point the finger and say, this happened on your watch and you're still fixing it. Shame on you. Just wow. Wow. So if people haven't watched the video of our mayor, as well as Dr. Hannah Atisha with Rachel Maddow, and then watched her completely tear apart our governor, they need to. It's fantastic. I couldn't be happier, actually. I couldn't be happier with how that turned out. So, yeah. She said the Flint toxic water tragedy points directly to Michigan Governor Snyder. And we've shared it so much on Facebook and Twitter that it shows trending as Rachel Maddow. So I'm like, thumbs up. Good job, citizens. Once again, spreading the word like we have been. So keep it up. Keep sharing it. Send it to everybody you know. Tag everybody you know in it. And it's quite enjoyable to watch. She visibly gets upset about this, which I think is fantastic. It shows that this is such a horrifying story. But she lays it out pretty clear. If you like the show or not, if you like her or not, doesn't matter. She's speaking the truth. So thank you. Thank you very much for, grabbing a hold of this story like you did. So that was one of my favorite things. And it was good to see the Legislative Black Caucus behind us. News One Now and Al Jazeera have covered they interviewed my friend Rhonda Kelso and then Leanne Walters and Mark Edwards talked to News One Now, talking about how this has been going on for 20 months, and it shouldn't be. So again, there's so many parts to this story: the lack of democracy, the ineptitude of the people in charge, the lies, the cover-ups, the deceptions. It's the health problems, the high bills, the lack of a voice, the emergency management situation. There's so many parts to this story that it takes all of these different articles to get it out, and it still doesn't cover everything. I sat down with a reporter from NPR, and I told them, well, here's what we've been through. And it was hours later, like today. There's so much to cover, and there's so much to know that it's going to take several media outlets, several different interviews across the board to try to get a complete picture of what's happened to us, what is continuing to happen, what needs to happen, and what can happen to other people. So yeah, that's a big thing right there, is that we need all the media attention and help we can get. People need to learn themselves to stop and fight. Because again, I tell people, can happen anywhere, and it already is. So, and I'm not, trying to make this, over dramatic. It's just the way that it is. So, also the article on number 16 that, at number 17, which on the sheet that talks about the Emergency Operations Center. I think that this is important to cover because this is something totally different. This is something the city has not seen before. Again, the plans are put in place 2 months ago. People need to be able to pick up water and water filters, and then they a central place to call and get information. No more calling the water plant or the MDEQ. There needs to be a central place where people can get help and get answers. So right now it's the fire station number 1, 310 East 5th Street downtown. And again, I'm sure this is going to expand over time. So this is one of the procedures that needed to happen for this whole state of emergency. Our mayor is following the procedures step by step to make sure that it is accurate. So that's very important for people to know. Let's see, Fox News, doctor thought polluted Flint water was worse for children than actually originally thought. Well, of course. Of course. It's way worse than any of us thought. Again, when we first talked about doing the Virginia Tech tests as a group, we knew it would be not good. We would find some things. Never did we imagine how high these levels would be and how consistent it would be across the city. So I'm certain that with the Fox News Health, when we talked to Dr. Hannah Atisha, I don't think she expected to pull the numbers she pulled. I don't think she expected to find what she found either, but she did. And again, this is important for people to see, that we weren't going into any of this looking for giant numbers to make this huge media splash and huge emergency. No, we were looking for answers, but got way more than we all bargained for. And it's a lot scarier and a lot more heartbreaking than we originally thought. So that was a good one. And then a big splash right now is the Genesee County chairman, after saying that he didn't think that there was a reason for a declaration of emergency. On the 18th, I think, 4 days later, he decided that I can go ahead and send it up to the governor after people kind of ripped him apart. Instead of putting off the meeting until January 4th, because, it's an emergency, hence the word emergency, the Genesee County chairman said he can the governor, and that's where it's going now. And we need the governor to back the declaration and send it on to the White House so we can get federal help. And then, of course, next is Michael Moore had put out 2 tweets now, and of course, it's hitting all over the place. He tweeted the Rachel Maddow interview and her rant, basically. And it'd be great. It would be great if you could step in and help, because we've been screaming for help since January. Well, since before January, but my group, me personally, we've been screaming for help since January. We've said, hey, your city's being poisoned. Help. So I hope that something comes at it, and he brings his cameras in. Again, like Michael Moore or not, he can really bring a lot of exposure to this issue. And that's what we need right now, to show the world that we need help, and we're not just a bunch of poor people wanting a handout. No, we're a bunch of regular people who got poisoned, and we need medical help, and we need the poisoning to stop. So there's a lot of misconceptions about Flint. So possibly if he can come shed a positive light on the people who actually do live here, and the people who actually are suffering, like my family, and the McIntyre family, and the Kelso family, and the Pembertons, perhaps things can change. So that's my hope there. Naive or not, yes. So thank you. We're starting to see people. Mark Ruffalo actually tweeted about it, and I thought that was awesome. And yeah, so it's good to see that people who are of a famous status, I guess, retweeting about little old Flint, but we need help. So there's that. There's more cover by Al Jazeera's, whose fault is it? Who's responsible for poisoning? It boils down to the governor's office. That's just the way it is. So more reposts about Rachel Maddow. There's our interview. And then there was a Flashpoint interview that I'll send you the link when I get it, that Karen Weaver went on to say that thank you to the grassroots organizers and the citizens for standing up and pushing this issue and standing behind her and helping push her, where she's standing with us and we're standing with her. And for once, we feel like we're going to have some help. So this is lengthy. Sorry. There's a lot of media that hit on this in such a short amount of time. I think we've had more reports in the past week than we have in the past year. I know Twitter's blowing up, Facebook's blowing up. I'm glad to see it. So, and thank you guys, because I've been talking to you since November. So thank you for
actually October 30th.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was Halloween, and my computer crashed literally to the floor. So yeah.
And you were locked out of your car. Remember that? I
got locked out of the station vehicle. We won't talk about that. That was a little embarrassing. So try to rush and see what happens, especially when you're not in your own car. But yeah, so since October, thank you guys. You picked up from across the country, and you've been interviewing all of the people who are involved here and getting so many great answers and interviews. So I really appreciate you guys for letting us, talk your ears off for long amounts of time about what has happened to us, and there's so many facets. Again, you've talked to Lena, you've talked to Kate, you've talked to Kurt, you've talked to Leanne, you've talked to, oh my gosh, I think you've talked to Dr. Mona, I believe.
We're going to talk to Dr. Mona, hopefully. And also Eric Mays, Bob Bopak,
yes.
And hopefully we're going to get Virginia Tech the plumbing professor,
Yes,
Mark Edwards, back on,
that would be great.
because
Mark and Sid are phenomenal.
yeah, Sid, we had Sid on.
Yes.
So we're just trying to get all the water warriors out there that aren't getting as big a spotlight as some to share their stories, because I think their stories are very important.
I appreciate that because, you know, again, especially from the citizen standpoint, you know, we've been working on this for so long and it is exhausting. It does take up so much of my life.
Do you sleep?
Not much. Not much. Sometimes because I'm angry, sometimes because I'm on the phone, sometimes because I'm talking to a resident who just got devastating medical news. Sometimes because I'm giving advice what to do with kids.
Well, you've got a family too, and you've got a job.
I have a full-time job. I have a family. I still throw concerts, and we did a Toys for Tots bash. I manage 4 bands. Indie Grace, which is my promotions company, is still my heart. I've used it a few times to help with the water. We've done water shows. We've done water drives. Yeah, and I myself am sick. So it is exhausting, but there's no way that I would even consider stopping. Actually, one of the reporters, and I cannot remember which one, asked me, why are you helping so many other people when you can just stop and just focus on helping your family? And it's a good question. It's a good question because my family needs help, but so do thousands of others. And if what I've gone through and what we're going through can help them a little bit, then I'll do it because
Well, doesn't it get back to it takes a village?
yeah, it does. But
Isn't
until
that what Dr. Mona is really out there trying to talk about? That she isn't the superhero, that there are a number of superheroes in this community that deserve as much recognition as she's getting. I mean, she did play a viable part. She does deserve all the awards and all the attention, but there are other superheroes within the community as well.
yeah, and they are in the community and they're regular people, and that's something that other cities need to pay attention to, because yes, it's awesome to have the experts backing us, to have Dr. Mona and Professor Edwards, you know, having Aaron Brockovich and Bob Bocock behind us. That's phenomenal, but it's the people. It's the people who live here that are standing up and fighting that's made this happen, and
Well,
they can make them happen. Where it takes just regular people who are fed up and who are willing to donate so much of their time and money and blood, sweat, tears to make a change for themselves, their families, and everyone around them. But it can be done. It has been done. And hopefully people will be inspired by what we've been able to do so far here. And hopefully the story continues in such a positive manner that we do make major changes. You
so
know?
what's up next week? What's on your schedule?
I believe there's Christmas in there, which I have not shopped for. I am a terrible person. I forgot to buy a turkey for Thanksgiving, so we had ham. So Melissa's getting a little behind on the everyday responsibilities. I work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're having a meeting this week, Monday night, trying to unite all the people that are standing up in Flint to hit one direction, because what we need to do is flood the governor's office. I am going to talk more with Lena from Food and Water Watch about doing a giant petition like they've done for us before, to petition the governor's office and the White House to declare this a federal state of emergency, a man-made disaster, to get us help. But that's the biggest focus right now, is pushing that. Once we get that, then we can start getting people help. So there's more of that. There's more interviews.
There's a new year coming up. Do you have a New Year's resolution?
Personally, I'd like to get more sleep. But I guess my resolution is to not let negativity get to me, to not let the naysayers get to me, and to keep pushing ahead with full force, for everyone in Flint to stand up for themselves and each other, and for us as 100,000 people to push forward and to make this change for not just us, but for everyone, to push the EPA to do the right thing, to push the governor to do the right thing. That's what I want for 2016. I want to see all of this stopped, and I want to see positive, actual change put into place. And it has to fall on us because we can't expect our elected officials to do so. Except and Eric Mays.
Okay, so I'm trying to keep this under 2 hours. We're getting close to the 2 hour point.
Wow.
So, any closing comments? Any words of wisdom that you would like to leave us with?
When you know something's wrong, when you know in your gut it's wrong, it's wrong. Don't let anybody tell you that you're crazy. Do your research, stand up, use your voice, join up with other people, support each other from other cities and states, and you can make a change.
And we are going to leave it at that. Thanks so much for tuning in. Check out the text box underneath these videos for links to resources regarding this story, because it is a big story and it is a continuing story, a revolving story. Thanks so much for tuning in. See you later, Melissa.
Thank you.